General officers behave differently than you might expect. Hey, I am Chuck the bureaucrat, and I want to share an observation about general officers that's going to seem counterintuitive when you first hear it. But once you understand it, you will be much more effective in providing them with what they need. And, not for nothing, but delivering results on the things that your senior rater values, that's how you get promoted. Okay, before I tell you about this personality trait of general officers, I've got to explain something about action officers. I often think in terms of the three-layer model. You've got your executive layer, your director layer, and your action officer layer. Military action officers are usually your majors and your lieutenant colonels. And while I call it the action officer layer, it actually contains a couple of different jobs, and today we're going to focus on the action officer and the executive officer. Action officers run point on specific issues, and they strive to be subject matter experts. Executive officers work directly for the exec, coordinating the information that's coming in from action officers in order to prepare the boss for the meetings he has to attend. The reason that I make this distinction between action officers and executive officers is that action officers don't spend a lot of time one-on-one with their executive. When an action officer is with a GO, the topic is often very focused, and there's usually a director there to kind of guide things. But executive officers spend a lot more time with their GOs, and so they have opportunity for more personal insight. I tell you this because I've mainly been an action officer, and this observation comes from a friend of mine who was an executive officer. He was one of these post-battalion command guys, infantry type, and he was surprised to discover that general officers are often introverts. The kind of people who often seek less stimulation, they recharge their batteries by quiet reflection, and they avoid being the center of attention. Based on my friend's prior experience, he had anticipated that general officers would be extroverts who sought more stimulation, who got energy by being around a lot of people, and who really liked being the center of attention. Now, part of the reason that this executive officer thought that general officers were extroverts was because as a platoon leader or a company commander, or even as a battalion commander, he tended to see general officers when they were in a public setting where they were the center of attention. There'd be a lot of people around the general officer, and there'd be a lot of hoo-ah going back and forth, hyped up stimulation. So the general looked like an extrovert. What he didn't realize was that for the general, this was kind of an act. And I'll explain why general officers are more likely to be introverts in just a second. But first, I want to tell you why this was such a revelation to my friend. He was an introvert. As a battalion commander, he had found those big, showy events to be exhausting. And he secretly worried that he was the wrong kind of person for this career. So for him, it was kind of a relief to discover that he was actually more the norm than he realized. Of course, there is a good reason why we want our general officers to be introverted. We want leaders who think before they speak. If a GO is the kind of person who is constantly trying to be the center of attention, it's not long before he's using his position and his unit to grandstand for the press. And look, military life is hard enough without having some general officer who's trying to suck the energy out of every single person around them. But so what? Why should you care about the personality type of a general officer? First of all, understand that your general officer is not looking for more drama in their life. Don't generate problems for him. Solve the problems that you can at your level, and the ones that you can't, set them up so that they can be easily resolved when they get to him. If you're an action officer, give them what they need without consuming an unnecessary amount of their time. If you're an executive officer, don't book their schedule up so much that they don't have time to go to the bathroom. Help them maintain a healthy work life, and if you want to see what that means for you, watch this video on how to achieve a state of flow.